All right, thank you all for coming. I call this meeting of the Orangetown Town Board to order. If we could please take the roll.
Okay. Let's see, Councilman Dennis Troy.
Present.
Okay, Councilman Tom Dibny.
Here.
Councilman Paul Valentine.
Here.
Councilman Jerry Batard.
Here.
And Supervisor Chris Taylor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, there's a few announcements. I'm going to go through. 3 are on and 1 is not on the agenda you have in front of you. So first, we have a paper shredding event coming up on April 7th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. here at Town Hall. If you bring in a non-perishable food donation for a local pantry, you will get the free secure paper shredding. Everything will get disposed of properly. Then we have, on the 24th of April, we have a scheduled public hearing at 8:05 p.m. at the town board meeting for a petition for zone change for Town Plaza 2. And then again on the 24th of April at 8:15 p.m., we have a proposed amendment to zone for 70 Hickory Hill Road. That's a public hearing as well. I also want to give a couple of announcements related to Aloof Plastics to keep people updated. Recently, we just completed testing on site with TRC. We gained access to the property. The testing has been finished, and we're going to be able to wait back on results. We'll get back to you on the timing of when those will come in, but successful completion of tests, which is great news, and good to have at least the cooperation for that. And then we also have we announced our new form for reporting odors, which is available via direct link on the town's website. Just click to report an odor. The only type of odor you shouldn't report there is natural gas. That's 911. Everything else, you fill out the form. Some feedback we got is that the public wanted to be able to see what comes in as it comes in terms of reporting. So a sanitized version of those reports, because they are official government incident reports, we can't put out the name of the people on it, but a sanitized version removing the contact information is now immediately populated to a link on the page you can access from that form for historical reporting. So anyone can check that and see where the reports are coming from and how they're described for the public to see, which I think is good for transparency. And we worked with our legal team to figure out the best way to do that. So moving on, we have a couple presentations today. So first we have Ryan Slattery, Eagle Scout for Troop number 2097. He had a project at Bogert Cemetery in Pearl River. Is he here? Oh, he's not here. Okay. Do you know if he's coming or?
I expected to see him.
Okay. We'll hold off on that. We'll come back if he gets back in. But he did a great project, and we really do appreciate it. We have a certificate for him here. So if and when he arrives, we'll get it to him. If not, we'll drop it in the mail. All right. So next we have a petition for zone change from Galway Bay Contracting. They come by in the last meeting. We had a few more questions left for them before we proceeded with the process. So if you guys want to come up and I guess continue to address those items.
I think Ronnie Slattery's here. You can call him in there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board. On behalf of the applicant, Brian Quinn, I'm the attorney for the applicant. My office is at 67 North Main Street, New City, New York. Also have here this evening our architect, Bob Hone. We have Kevin Joyce from Joyce Realty, and Jay Greenwell, our surveyor, as well as Tom Atkin, who's one of the principals, or the principal, I should say, of the applicant. We did make a brief presentation last week. We'd be happy to go over that again to the extent if you felt anything was open or other questions, but we were asked to come back this evening with respect to 2 issues. One was parking, and one was what the rents will be. And I'll be happy to summarize to try to move this along, but if you'd like to hear more details about it, Kevin can speak, for example, about the rents and what the market is these days. And Jay Greenwell can also contribute with respect to the parking. But as far as the rents go, I think I said the last time, well, it will be what the market bears. But, in response to your inquiry, we did ask Kevin, who is obviously the principal of Joyce Realty, does a lot of work in Pearl River, very experienced gentleman. He's had a broker's license for many, many years. And what he said was, and we also looked into the project right next door to this, which was the old movie theater. Mr. Lane, I think, converted that. That's operating under PAC zoning right now. And the one-bedroom units, we're told, are a minimum of about $1,500. The two bedrooms go for $2,000 and up. Kevin can testify as to what he found out about the development known as the Club, which we understand is filled up, although the prices are considerably more than the numbers that what we just quoted. We understand that everything is kind of a la carte. If you want a garage, it's extra money. You want a pet, it's an extra $50 a month for pet rent, things of that nature. What the applicant is proposing is an upscale building, 16 units, 1 and 2 bedrooms. There will be nice finishes there. Obviously, he would like to try to maximize the rent to the extent that he can, but it's also whatever the market bears. And there's some competition out there, but there also is a real demand for this kind of housing, as indicated as one of the exhibits to the petition. Kevin Joyce gave us a letter summarizing the need for senior housing in the Pearl River area. What's attractive about this project is it is right next door to an existing PAC-zoned building that has 14 units over there. If you're familiar with where the Joyce Realty building is, the proposal is to go up 2 floors, to add 2 floors, have the residential units above. The commercial will continue on the first floor. If you're familiar with the area, you know you can walk to everything, including the train station from there. All the restaurants, just about everything else is there. So that was the response with respect to the rent. With respect to the parking, we were advised at the last meeting that there was a payment made by Mr. Lane in connection with his approval. And I had to do a little bit of digging, but I did find the approval resolutions for his project. There was a fair amount of discussion about the parking. That particular development had no parking. They had no on-site parking, and as I understand it, as part of the secret review, this was discussed. The county planning department came in with their opinion about the lack of parking, but ultimately what was approved was, I understand that the applicant for that proposal or that project paid $1,500 per residential unit. There were 14 units over there. We have, well, number one, we looked into that. I've told the applicant about that. We also have made inquiry with respect to, inquiry has been made to the town clerk about possibly obtaining permits for using parking spaces. There is an adjacent municipal lot right next door to this property by the Joyce Realty there. And so we're looking into that as a possibility. We did hear some information that the town does rent out or permit certain spaces at about $900 a year. But we would expect that this will become a little more detailed as we proceed with our application. As indicated in the plan that we have presented as part of the petition, there are 38 spaces on site. Kevin has spoken with Veronica Lane, who's the daughter of Edmund Lane, the developer. She advises that many of the residents in their building do not even have cars. So we would like to be able to, discuss this and proceed with this, as we go through our application with the town. Obviously, we'll be looking for an approval, and so this will be a topic of discussion. We know it will be. So, but be happy to go through the proposal and the project again, the petition, or any other questions that you might have.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions, Sean?
Kevin, do you know if the other building is like a movie theater, for lack of a better word, it's fully rented?
Yes.
It is fully rented?
It's fully occupied.
Yes. Yeah, actually, I believe that was stated there was a letter attached to the petition from Kevin Joyce indicating that we understand that the club is fully rented and the The old movie theater is fully rented, and the club is moving on to Phase 2. They're going to be constructing some additional apartments.
A lot of the rentals to reject that.
Could you, I'm sorry, just because it's broadcast, could you step to
Yeah.
the podium so they can
Yeah,
get a
come on up.
microphone? Thank you, Kenny.
Good evening. A lot of the rentals that I brought with me that I can build and bring my file. Sorry. So a lot of the rentals that we're looking at in Pearl River mainly are in multifamily homes. Specifically, if you guys are familiar with Pearl River, there are a lot of multifamily, say, on Main Street. So, so right now what I did was I did a compilations of 2 bedrooms over the 6 months and 1 bedrooms that are for rent, and as well as active 2 bedrooms, and the the club is not part of the MLS system. They lease within themselves, but at a la carte, what I found out was a 1-bedroom, if you go with all the options, are about $26.75, and a 2-bedroom runs about $3,050. So just 1-bedrooms right now, actively, at $1,500, is located on Main Street, and that one is $1,650 in a 3-family house that's dated and old. So no amenities, no nothing. What I dealt with during the course of my career of running Joyce Realty is that we do a lot of corporate relocation. So we did the Mercedes-Benz move. We're the preferred relocation broker for Pfizer. And people that come in from out of state, Rockland County and Pearl River, Orangetown specifically, does not really have a dense population of rentals. We're a bedroom community. We're the smallest county in the state. So demand is high because people do want to live in Pearl River, and a lot of people are not in a position to buy. So, there is a definite need for rentals, whether it be senior or even conventional rentals, for, young people who would like to reside in Pearl River. So, I'd be happy to furnish you with my complete report on the rentals, but I can tell you that the majority of the rentals are in multifamily homes that are older, and they're getting $1,500 to $2,000.
Other questions for?
Can we go back to the parking?
Yeah.
So Brian, I didn't understand what you were saying. They paid $1,500 a space, so that was the spaces they needed for 14 units.
Or was it 1,500 a unit? Was it per
So
space or per unit?
was it per, like you, I don't know how many spaces are required for 14.
It was
Came to the-
a contribution to the parking authority.
Yeah, it was just
Right.
14 times.
It
Yes.
just came
Just
up-
14 times 1,500?
Yeah, and then they had to
Before
pay for the,
before
they had to pay for the permits also.
One time?
No, they gotta pay for the permit
And then they pay
every
for the
year.
permits.
That's the 900, but it was a
Because
one-
for 16 units, you don't need 16 spaces, you need more than 16 spaces.
Right. This was an extra, I guess.
Well, they already have 38, see, that
No,
is,
I know that, that's what I'm trying to figure out, Dennis, is it for the spaces that they're short?
I could read the
We
actual
can do whatever we want.
verbiage in the resolution.
Yeah, please.
This was the approval from September 14th, 2010. in recognition of the immediate impact upon municipal parking imposed by the proposed zone change and development, this zone change is expressly conditioned on payment by the petitioner for the benefit of the Pearl River Parking District, the sum of $1,500 per residential dwelling unit, the full sum to be paid prior to the issuance of the first building permit for a residential unit. So it was a one-time fee of
Extra one-time fee.
$1,500 times the number of units.
Because they had zero.
Right.
They had zero, correct.
You know, the irony is, that was a movie theater that had
Yes.
hundreds, and nobody cared
Well,
whether it had
absolutely.
parking or no
No,
parking.
Dennis, I'm just trying to figure
I'm
out,
just
because they
telling-
have parking for the majority of the units, they're only short a
Right.
few spaces, so.
That's by the calculation of spaces.
No,
If you just
but
go by per unit, it's more than enough.
And it's short.
Yes.
If you go by
38 parking spaces, but that's because of the
commercial.
commercial.
The addition of the
right.
commercial
The commercial
space, which
space.
requires, a certain number of spaces per square footage, yes.
Okay.
We believe that this can be addressed, though, as part of the application. We would,
So one thing it was kind of brought up, how do you plan to address the concerns about the pack zone and the additional square footage? Is that the current pack zone, I'm told, is not to add additional.
in the CS zone,
Yeah.
yes. And actually, when we first started this last autumn, we had a meeting, and we discussed these issues, and there will be, the zoning, the way it's written, the PAC zoning, the way it's written, has a number of limitations on it that make it difficult. There were also, I believe, some additional variances that were required as part of the conversion of the movie theater into the PAC zone as well, too. These will have to be considered on a case-by-case basis, but we believe that we can address these, and it will be a good project. It'll be bringing a nice, 16 nice new units with nice finishes. It will be an upscale project in downtown Pearl River, and I think it's a good redevelopment project. But these will be things that will need to be considered and addressed as part of this application before
Right.
we can get an approval. We understand that.
Okay. Any other questions, John? Okay. So these folks have been in
Rob, you got any
before.
concerns?
Rob, do you have anything?
No, that was the one issue that came up about the extra square footage.
Right. And yet, we'll just have to,
Well, right, when they come in, I mean, it's either going to be, we'll have to change the law, or they'll go for a variance. So that's something that maybe we can sit down with the building department and discuss that when they actually make the application.
so, real quick. Do we have?
Obviously, if it takes, a change in the law would be
It's a longer.
more significant.
More significant process, and it applies to more areas, obviously. Do we have proposed resolution to set hearings in this agenda, or?
No.
No, but if you want to give an outside date, and then we can set up, getting whatever we need, start April 10th. I wouldn't set the date for April 10th. Set the hearing for either the 24th or the following meeting. And in the meantime, we can sit with Brian and,
Would we have to vote tonight to get it on the 24th for a hearing, or do we have to, will we vote on the 10th?
We can,
well, you're not voting to distribute it. And there's really nothing to distribute just yet.
Right.
It's still-
No, what we need to do is set the public meeting, I think is the
Right,
first thing that we would do.
I think if we set the public hearing for either the 24th or the following week, at the 10th, we can do the secret language.
Okay.
And then do it that way, because I think there's still some work to be done before it really
Yeah.
Yes,
can be circulated.
yes.
So we have,
So it's really not ready to be circulated.
the 24th, we have 2 hearings, and then what's
Do
the
it
next meeting?
week.
Do we have anything in the next meeting? I don't think so. The next one is a week later, right? Is it the first? I don't think it's but it's May.
if you were looking for to go the route of the zone change, wouldn't you need to give the county 30 days? So it really, we can set it for a date, but
We need to know what you
a lot of it really has to do on what your proposal is, because if you're looking for a zone change, we're gonna have to postpone this public hearing while you're trying to get the change of zone. And I think once we know that, the county's gonna have 30 days.
Yes, the county will need to have 30 days' notice. It will need to
So-
circulate to
Well,
outside agencies.
we can put it in for
Put
now,
whatever we want,
but
and-
it's really what your,
What are you looking at?
what your
seek, you think?
approach is.
You'll also need to circulate a notice of intention to act as lead agency as well, too.
All right.
Yep.
You know,
You
So
know
there's a
what?
number of steps that need to be taken on
Why don't we
this.
put it beyond 30 days from April 10th? And we'll make April 10th the date to really set the dates. I mean, if you want to put it in as a placeholder for, you know, May 15th or something.
So the next meeting is, you have one on the 8th and one on the 15th would be the next one of May.
I would think the 15th, because if we,
30 days from the 10th.
it's just a placeholder. If we're ready to go on the April 10th, we can go. If we're not, we'll have to
So
bump the
April
15th.
10th, we can vote on it, though.
Vote, no,
Vote
well,
on
you
certain
just
Vote on the
public hearing.
declaration.
Vote on setting-
vote on
setting
setting
the-
it out
Public,
and
yeah.
and circulating it and
Yeah.
everything else. But
I mean, we'd be voting on it even though it's,
We'd be voting to circulate and then we know.
Just to circulate it.
all right,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And set the, and just officially set the hearing. Okay,
Alright.
so we'll pencil in the 15th of May as the hearing, and we'll work out exactly what we're circulating before the 10th, and then we'll vote on that on the 10th. So
I will be in contact with the town attorney
Please, yeah.
as well as the building department, just to make sure that we cover.
Yeah, on this, what you're,
Whatever-
that we're noticing
whatever
what
you're
you're
looking
to
for.
do. Yeah, of course.
Yes, yeah.
All right,
The,
great.
the zone as written is kind of an interesting one, and it does afford, this town board really is the one that will be, you know, voting to approve this, you know, whether you refer us to the planning board or the ACABOR or whatever, but, you know, I presume that the town board will act as lead agency. And the zoning as written, while it's very restrictive, also has some flexibility. You do have flexibility in making determinations and, you know, with respect to some of the more particular items. But a couple of things that need to be addressed there.
Okay. Great, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we move on, I saw, I'm assuming that's our Eagle Scout over there, Ryan Slattery, who came in. Right. So, you want to just, how you doing? You want to introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit what the project you did was, and we'll give you your certificate and appreciation for it.
Yes, my name is Ryan Slattery. I'm an Eagle Scout from Troop 97, New City, New York. I'm actually from Pearl River. I go to Pearl River High School. And my Eagle Scout project was quite simply restoring the cemetery that was in front of Zimi's, the very neglected, rundown old cemetery. And I thought it would be an interesting project because I asked my assistant principal when I was actually asking to use part of the high school for a fundraiser, and she said, "What cemetery?" And I'm like, and that's why I think it'll be a Great Eagle project. And so yeah, basically what I did was I fixed the fencing so that it now all stands straight up and down, and I was able to use mostly the existing fencing without having to replace too much. I dug up all the tombstones and I reset them in almost like chronological order. Children, what we think are children, with their parents, and then husbands with wives. And what's interesting about that family is that cemetery, is that it's all one family. And there's 3 veterans buried there. There's a Revolutionary War veteran, there's a War of 1812 veteran there, and there is a guy who served right after the Civil War as a fife major in the Army. And then I almost made like a replica, like I made like a 1-to-1 replica of one of the signs that's down at Rockland Lake, the kind that have the roof over them with the plexiglass covering the bulletin board. And I literally went down there with my dad, took a bunch of pictures of it, took measuring tape, and then went to one of the assistant scoutmasters who's also like a contractor / carpenter by trade, and he told us, okay, these are the pieces you need to get, and we're gonna build you a sign. But being in Rockland County is a little bit difficult because, you know, Rockland County, there's literally rocks like this far down. So
It's true.
that took a lot of digging. And the fact that the roof of that sign has to be a couple hundred pounds, not even the entire sign, just the roof. And another interesting fact too about a bunch of those tombstones is the bit that sticks up out of the ground is only about the top third to a quarter of it. There's another couple feet that goes down into the ground. So they're actually a lot taller than people might realize. So yeah, that in a nutshell is what my Eagle Scout project was.
Great. Thank you for your contribution to the town. I appreciate it.
Great project.
So, in appreciation of your service into a key area of the town, we have the certificate to present to you if you want to come on up. Recognition. Thanks very much.
Congratulations, and thank you. Good job.
All right, great. Thank you, Ryan, for that project. Really appreciate you doing that for the town. Moving on, we're going to go straight with a few items we have to vote on, though it is a workshop meeting, just because of the timing of this meeting being a little bit separated from our next meeting. First, gentlemen, we have the memorandum of agreements 1, 2, and 3. Though on item 3, there's a typo. It says captain for Kevin Nolte. It's actually chief. There's a typo on that one. The other two are captain. So first, the first motion is to approve the memorandum of agreement for Captain James Brown. Do I have a motion? for
I'll
this?
make a motion.
Councilman Valentine, second. Councilman Troy, all in favor?
Aye.
And then 2, memorandum of agreement for the contract for Captain Butterworth. Is there a motion? Councilman Troy, second. Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
And then finally, Chief Nolte, motion? A second? All right, so Divney motion, Troy second, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Then we have an amendment, a proposed amendment, which we would have to vote on today, but we're also going to take a moment and just talk about. Is one of the representatives from the police department here yet? No, there we go. So the police department's been handling our permitting, so we're going to have a little explanation as to the reasoning behind the change here for the helicopter landing filming,
Okay,
or the proposed change.
good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's a Netflix film, The Punisher. They've been working with us for a while. I guess in the beginning agreement, it says 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. What they're looking for is they want to land a chopper between 4 and 6, and then between 6 and 10, they need 2 shots of the chopper, so they're asking for like 5 times to go up and down in it. They understand the agreement that if it's there longer than 10, they can't fly out that night. We have pictures of the local houses. They've all been notified, all the residents and the people on there, they're notified of the noise and exactly what's going on. I believe the closest house is 11,000 feet away, and I think there's been some compensation to them, and actually an offer to a hotel if it would be too much for them. But they have worked very closely with us. It's a safe spot. It's on top of the mountain. It's a safe landing zone. And, I mean, we don't feel it's going to be any inconvenience to the town or the people living there. I said they filmed quite a bit here, and they've been very cooperative. Morgan Roach is the locations manager. She's worked very closely with Sergeant Palazzolo. And it seems like it would be something that would be fine to do and fit right in with their plans.
In talking to the chief, he pointed out the distances, so it's that one house is about 3 football fields away, and then after that is
Yeah.
another
I have some pictures if
several
you
more
want
houses.
to take a
or
look at these.
Several more football fields to get to the next house.
There's 3 houses, it has the numbers there, where exactly it is, and, they all,
They're all lower too.
and every time we do a movie shoot, everybody's notified, letters go in mailboxes, if it's close, we'll go up and knock on doors. This company has a good track record, it's a Disney company. We've had no issues with them, and, it seems like it would be fine on our end of that.
Does anyone have any questions about it? Because we're just changing it by a couple hours, basically. We passed the other version already.
Yeah, they wanted it night shoot, that's why they wanted to go to 10.
With daylight savings time, they're
And they do realize that if it goes later than 10, which these movie shoots tend to do, they can't fly it out at night. They'll stay there till the morning and then they can go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all, yeah. They've been working up there. If you go up there, they've changed that whole scene up there. They've done a good job, actually.
Yeah, they did a lot of actual
Cleaning
work
the
to
buildings
the
out and
structures up
stuff.
there. Okay. Is there thank you very much.
Yep,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Good night.
You're
Okay.
comfortable with this?
Yeah, no, it's good. I've done the movies for 8 years, and we've done it, and this is a good company, and I have no issues with them at all.
Not crazy about helicopters, Only because.
We won't make you ride it,
recommended.
Dennis.
It's the top of the mountain. It
We
ain't.
won't make you ride it.
I'm telling you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion for this one?
I'll make a motion.
Councilman Valentine, second.
Second.
Batari, I think, got up there. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, so this one, number 5, I'm gonna have to bring Joe Moran up. It's time sensitive, he's gonna explain it. No, it's not.
Okay, good evening. What this resolution is requesting is that we can authorize professional services to an environmental company that does flow monitoring. We did it last year in the sanitary sewer system in Nyack. We reported to the state. And what happened was, as a result of that report, there were certain sections that were monitored for flows, reduction in flows as a result of our sewer lining projects that had inordinately high amounts of flow. So we wanted to pinpoint areas within that system and continue the monitoring process as part of our reporting to the state and in compliance with our order on consent. This began in 2014. We had a $540,000 sewer lining contract, all to reduce inflow and infiltration. We did a flow monitoring report back then. We showed some significant reductions with that much smaller contract. In 2015, we did not get good results, did not get good data at the time of the flow monitoring report being submitted due to not good rainfall during that study period. The state allowed us to repeat that section that was lined in 2015 for $900,000. After we completed our 2016-2017 lining contract, that was a total of $1.6 million. So it was a very large study that was done last year and showed good results, but there were certain areas that still showed some high flow where we lined, and in some of those segments, we were not able to line all the sewers due to them being undersized. They were 6 inches in diameter, and you cannot rehabilitate a 6-inch diameter sanitary sewer. You have to replace it. So the report indicates, and the state would like us to continue with this, with the study. The original study was $80,000 for 17 manholes to be studied over a 3-month period. This is for 15 manholes to be studied over a 1-month period. That's why it's $45,000, and it's the same company.
So I guess the question, just to confirm, this is a mandate that we do this as part of a DEC compliance thing, that we continue this study and extend it further than was authorized?
Yeah, well, it's an overall part of the order on consent, which was to eliminate overflows at the Nyack pump station. So our proposal back in 2014 to comply with that order on consent was to come up with a 3-year multi-plan to line sewers, rehabilitate the sewers in Nyack by lining to reduce inflow and infiltration to the point where those overflows would be eliminated. They occur during heavy rain events. So after we do the lining, we have to do the flow study. After each contract, we were supposed to do the flow study and show the reduction in each one of the segments of inflow and infiltration to ultimately get to a goal that we feel if we reach, we can eliminate the overflows. So when we did the study last year, that was for the last 2 contracts combined, there were certain subsections within the areas that we studied or analyzed that still had high flows. So when we submitted the report to the state, they wanted to know how we were going to correct that. So we we need to analyze it first and pinpoint the areas before we can come up with a course of action of how to rehabilitate sewers in those locations, if it's even the sewers. Because our biggest problem is finding the sources of inflow. We know we have enough of reduction in infiltration. The problem is finding the sources of inflow. And like I said, not every sewer was able to be lined. We might have to look into some replacements at this point too, depending on the results we get from this flow study.
So, again, just to, again, to clarify, this additional spend is a requirement of something the state is putting on us to continue, or is it something we're choosing to pursue associated with something the state is, like, just straight up, is it,
The state wants this done.
they want it done? Are they making us do it, or they want it
Yes,
done?
they want it done.
Okay.
They actually were trying to impose a deadline on me
Yeah, that's,
of late June, and I asked for early August.
okay. And then, as I understand in talking with you, or senior email, there's an issue with timing. The reason why we have to vote on it tonight, up or down, is because there's extra costs associated with doing it after the rainy period's over, because they need to have extra water flow to help with testing. So it would cost more if we waited another month to authorize it, essentially.
Yes, it would cost more, actually.
The
if
longer we wait, the more likely it's
Yeah.
gonna cost more,
Yes.
essentially. Okay. Any other questions for Joe? Just love these unfunded mandates, it's good. All right, is there a motion? Councilman Troy and Councilman Batari seconds, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. All right, we're gonna do one more, and then, Ryan, do you guys want to head out? Do you want to, we could take a break, take a quick photo, and then I don't want you to have to sit around the whole meeting. You're okay, or you want to take it, we could, okay, I didn't know if you're, I don't want you to feel obligated to sit through this whole process here. You can always take a break. All right, next we have, some bond issuance. Jeff, can you just, maybe just quickly explain in layman's terms this particular vote and the timing?
Yes, this one will be effective immediately once it's voted on April 10th. And with all of these, we're going to have the sewer public hearing April 10th as well. This one was on the original in February, and then for whatever reason, it did not get transferred over and board
So we just
synced.
missed it on the other
So we
votes.
just missed
So
it.
in
and-
order to do it April 10th, we need to vote today, so it's safely on the.
Well, we don't need to vote on this today. We can vote on it April
This-
10th.
Oh, this doesn't need to be public hearing?
Subsection A,
No, this is no public hearing.
Okay.
363 being, what is that, where, that's funding? What are we using that 363 for?
The vehicles, which I think it's a combination of different ones, right?
The-
What vehicles?
Where are you at, Tom?
It's
Top of the next page after
Section
9.
1A, the purchase of vehicles at a maximum estimated cost of 363.
Let me get my. Okay, so. So 1A, you have a fire inspection vehicle. You also have new vehicles in parks for 208,000. And you have 3 new vehicles for the building department. That's what makes that up.
All right.
I know we don't technically have to vote on this today, but given that it's been workshopped multiple times, we just forgot to get it on the agenda last time. You guys mind getting it voted on now, just to get it done with, and then we can,
No, I would rather have it at a regular town board meeting where people can discuss it. Some people might want to,
and it's been on since September, and we can wait another meeting if you want, but it's been workshopped twice now, so.
listen, I've always had the issue with Andy. He always would do that, and my belief is that if people want to speak against it or for it,
Right.
they should be able to afford that
I
opportunity.
agree with that as well. In this case, it was already workshopped multiple times, but I'm not gonna do it unless everyone wants to, so. We can wait. If there's no emergency rush, we can wait.
No, I mean, we're going to issue all of these bonds all together.
Okay. And it does not need to be noticed, so it's just, 10th is good.
The 10th is good. We have to do letter of estoppel for all of them. So we'll be doing all of those after the public hearing on the 10th.
Okay. Any other questions for Jeff? All right, thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, so we have to, I guess we're a little late on this. We're opening this public hearing, are we gonna? All right, so we have a motion to open the public hearing for Orangeburg Commons mixed-use zoning. Continuing it from before,
Continuing, yeah.
continuation, yeah. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Councilman Valentine, second from Councilman Divney, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak on the continuation of the public hearing, other than the applicant? Yes, Mary?
Good evening. My name is Mary Cardenas, and I just want a point of clarification. With this applicant, I see it covers several lots. Are any of these lots owned by the town of Orangetown, or is it an easement? Can anybody tell me a little bit about this?
Several lots.
Let's, not sure which,
I guess,
you want to, yeah, she's going to step up next, so we'll have them answer the question. Do you have any other comment before we get to that question, or?
And the other thing
Say
is,
that we all get it all at once.
the second thing is, has anybody really looked how close this structure is close to CSX? It's within 60 feet of that railroad bed. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Okay.
Good evening, Noelle Wolfson, Hockerman, Tortorella, and Wexstein, the attorneys for the applicant. So the reason why there are so many tax lot numbers is because the lot that the daycare center is proposed for, the lot that will ultimately be most affected by the zone change, is lot 22. That's what's commonly referred to as the shops at Orangeburg Commons. The other lots, which are 21 and then point-1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are the units within the Orangeburg Commons development. And the reason why the zone change covers all of that area, all of those lots are owned by private entities. None of the land is owned by the town. And the reason why the zone change covers all of it is because all of those lots are within the mixed-use zone, the mixed-use special permit, and therefore the zoning text amendment would affect all of them, although the daycare center is only proposed for that lot 22. And then for the ultimate development, there are a series of cross-access easements and parking easements between Lot 22, the shops at Orangeburg Commons lot, and Orangeburg Commons, which is why the whole property is sort of a part of this application, but only that small area by Lot 22 is what's affected.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant while they're up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Councilman Tar?
Have you considered, and again, this is just a question out there, have you considered placing the child care center on the other side? I mean, I know that you're having problems with the pad on the other side. There was a fast food restaurant that was proposed. The child care center on the other side, maybe looking for self-storage along the tracks? Just throwing it.
No, we haven't really. The child care center was interested in the shops lot. The layout is good for the center. It fits within the footprint that's already approved. Those other uses make up a part of Orangeburg Commons, so we really haven't explored that option.
This is, they requested it, you're saying that they were marketing the applicant, I mean, your potential tenant, you offered them any lot and then, or any spot, and then they said they wanted that one, or is it?
Right, they came in and expressed interest in that,
They
in that
picked that
parcel.
lot?
I'm sorry?
They picked that lot?
Yes.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other further public comment in this hearing? This is a continuation of a continuation of a continuation, I think.
I make a motion, we close public comment.
Okay, is there a second? Councilman Troy, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That was to close. Okay, so we have next, this was to open, this to continue close. All right, next we have the declaration of secret. Sorry, lead agency, sorry, Mr. Wright. All right, is there a motion for the declaration of the lead agency? Is anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Councilman Valentine, is there a second? Councilman Troy, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, do you want to do a roll call on this one, or? Okay, we have a roll call vote. Joe?
Well, on lead agency?
This is the lead agency vote. How are you voting? I didn't hear a resounding group of yeses on the lead agency.
Just on the lead agency, on, just have to be lead agency.
What's the sense of cutting the chase? Everybody's going to be no at the end.
So Councilman Batari, no?
Correct.
Councilman Troy?
Yes.
Councilman Bidney?
Yes.
And Councilman Valentine?
Yes.
Yes. And Supervisor Day?
Yes. Okay. So that was the lead agency, and then we have negative declaration in respect to environmental. Is there a motion? Councilman Troy, second. Councilman Valentine. We do a roll call on this one as well, please?
Okay. Councilman Batari?
No?
Councilman Troy?
Yes.
Councilman Bidney?
Yes.
Councilman Valentine?
Yes.
And Supervisor Day?
Yes. All right, so now we're actually up to adopting the local law. This is the one with the teeth. All right, so and if anyone wants to make comments as the vote comes up, feel free. Is there a motion on item 11 to adopt special permits related to the LI zoning district for mixed use? Councilman Divney moves it. Is there a second? Councilman Troy?
There's a roll call.
And roll call, please, Joe.
Okay. Bear with me 1 second, okay? Okay, Councilman Batari?
No, and it's for safety reasons, so I'm going to, again, vote no.
Okay. Councilman Troy?
Voting yes, I think it's incumbent upon the person, the people who are running the child care center to make sure it's safe. The other thing is the people who bring their children there, they're making a judgment whether they think it's safe or not safe. All right, so from my perspective, it's America works. I vote yes.
Okay, Councilman Dibney?
Yes. I mean, we have two railroads in Orangetown that cut through the town, and there's numbers of businesses. You have the AOH has its dance lessons right there. You have a number of organizations. You have the Rockland Conservatory of Music right near the train tracks. So you're going to have organizations such as that near the train tracks. It's a commercial spot where they can do it. But I can say that this is the last time I'm going to give this applicant any relief. No more. You guys say that you can do it, then do it. Don't come back here in a year and say, we can't get it done. We want another amendment to the text. And the next time you're here, I hope it's for the hotel, because that's the only thing I'm going to consider that's the only thing I'm going to be looking to consider. Anything else I'll vote no on, because we've given you a lot of breaks on this because we want to see businesses come to town. But I think we've been more than accommodating, and I think it's time for you guys to produce that hotel and the occupants that you guys promised us when you got this originally approved.
Councilman Valentine?
I'm going to vote yes also for the same reasons that Dennis and Tom said. There are already existing daycare centers on the sides of the tracks in Tapan, as well as businesses where families eat dinner. I think it's incumbent upon the applicant to make sure that it's safe for the kids and the families. So I'm voting yes also.
Okay, and then Supervisor Day?
Yeah, again, I think the safety concerns were a legitimate one to raise. So I wasn't sure. I went and I scrolled up Google Maps along the entire route of the train, and in that route from the Tapan Jersey border up to through Blauvelt, I counted at the same distance 44 homes, at least 3 churches, the German Masonic Park, which is where the town hosts its summer camp for kids. My own son went to camp there, so right literally abutting the train tracks. There's at least 1 preschool / daycare in Tapan. The Blue Hill Commons condos are the same distance. There's multiple shopping centers, restaurants, and a good chunk of Dominican College. So the concern I would have in voting no solely based on safety, which looking at the application would be the only reason to vote no. This is not an impact in a residential area. There's no impact on neighbors. There's no pollution. There's nothing else. It's just a daycare center, would be the safety. By declaring it unsafe, we're declaring a whole swath of our town unsafe, and I don't believe it to be. There obviously are risks associated with anything in town, but I think that if we already have these uses elsewhere, we're saying our own town and where we house our kids for the summer is not safe, and I don't believe that to be the case, so I'm going to vote yes. Great. Thank you very much. Is this all the same thing here? Okay. All right, so now we have some just proposed resolutions to look at for our next meeting. So we're going to be setting a public hearing, or sorry, this is to open the public hearing on 12. We're kind of going to skim through these ones. This is all technicalities. Open and continue the public hearing. This is the performance standards one's public hearing. And then continuing down for continuing, that's still the same resolution. Going on to number 17, opening public hearing for bond issuance. We have a lot of public hearings on the 10th. I think they missed off the announcements, actually, so just to take it through, I'll be a little more specific. We have for the public to hear it, we have, on the 10th, we have a public hearing on our proposed amendments to the code regarding, the special permits.
That's for the special permit.
This is for the special permit we just did, so that's one. So at 8 o'clock, we have a public hearing on the special permit for this that we just voted on, which is the next step of the process. Then there is the public hearing on the zoning for items and rights of ways at the April 10th meeting. Then we have the planning board changes, where we're going to have an alternate added, where we have that public hearing then. And then we're having the performance standards, right? Is that happening? That's one of them I'm looking at? Yep, right? Oh, no, number 14 is part of 15, or is that a separate thing? There's the rights of ways on 13, on the 10th. And then there's number 14, that is that's the performance standards for odor and particulate matter. And then there is the public hearing for our amendments to the planning board membership to add an alternate. And then that actually could be voted on that day, hopefully. And then this is all part of that, the amendments to our law, if you continue that. And then 17 is for the bond issuance public hearings, which are a sequence of, which is just a publicly required thing. So basically, most of the meeting on the 10th is going to be public hearings. Just, we ended up having a crash of things at once. Everyone good with all the wording there? I mean, it's all the same thing we've seen before. Then we have some resolutions from town attorney we'll come up with. One is for certificates of sewer registration approval. Then 21, you have authorizations for injunctive relief. Or were we gonna, was this something? We were supposed to vote on this tonight, I think, right? Yeah, but because they're based on the timelines we were setting. So we talked about, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. Why are we authorizing you guys to do what you're already able to do, which is your job? It makes no sense. You guys are, part of your job and part of the building, zoning, and planning is to enforce our law, so I don't understand why we're authorizing you to do what we already hired you to do.
Can I call Jane, you want to step to the podium just to help with this?
Well, as a prerequisite, these are seeking to file injunctive relief in Supreme Court. As a prerequisite to doing that, the town board has to authorize such a suit. We're not talking about
a different type of
code prosecution in the Justice Court. This is to go to Supreme Court. And one of the actual factual allegations that has to be in the suit is that it's been authorized by the town board. So
Thank you.
That's why we're putting it.
That makes sense.
Anyone have any questions for Jane?
Thank you,
Since I
Rob.
brought up to the podium.
Doing a fine job.
Basically, we have here, and I've distributed this earlier, and it does say proposed text. The intent is to vote because of the timelines associated. We have made a list of our worst violators in town. We have been speaking with them and giving them timelines in which to comply. This injunctive relief is another tool to use to compel compliance, and it requires authorization of the town board to do it. Once authorized, we can then pull the trigger on it whenever myself and Jane and Rob agree is the appropriate time to do that based on interactions with these companies. But they have crossed lines in terms of the ignoring of stop work orders, working without certificate of occupancies, and we just need to be able to use this tool to bring them into compliance in addition to our standard tools, like Councilman Divany said, that we could use whenever we want. So that's the
Right,
thought
we've
process.
basically exhausted what we can do within the town, so we have to step outside of that if they do not comply.
Right,
All right.
okay. All right, so number 21, I'm going to ask, is there anyone who wants to move that? If not, I will. Councilman Troy, is there a second? Yeah. Councilman Atari, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then 22, same thing for the other company.
Move.
Councilman Divany, second. Councilman Troy, all in favor? And then 23, again, the last company of the top three. Is there a motion? Councilman Divany, second from
Paul.
Paul, Councilman Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. And then the last one here, actually, Jane, you probably shouldn't have sat down. To be fair, I didn't suggest you sat down. You took that initiative, so. So we're trying to redo a little bit of our building and permitting in steps. One of them is to try to have a plans reviewer and deputy inspector. There's, I think, general agreement that it needs to be done to smooth out the process for our good applicants and also make it more enforceable on our bad ones. And Jane, I'll let you take it from there.
The idea is to have a deputy inspector that would have responsibilities in zoning code compliance review. Right now, the reviews are handled separately. We have 4 inspectors, so sometimes the enforcement and interpretation of the code will differ from inspector to inspector. By having one inspector doing the zoning code compliance reviews, that would give us more consistency in the review process. So the applications will come in, go to the deputy inspector, who would have the authority to issue denials and referral to the zoning boards, planning boards, and our other 2 last land use boards. What we're going to do is, once the denial then goes to the applicant will come in with their board application, the fee, and 2 copies of the drawings to be submitted. They will be reviewed again for compliance with the denial and completeness of the application. What we've been experiencing is that the applications are getting in, and they're getting before the board, and they're not complete, and then they have to be continued, which sometimes is costing the applicant 30 days or more. So initially, this might be a little bit frustrating for the applicants, but once we get through all the glitches, I think it's going to streamline the process. Instead of it finding out, waiting 30 to 60 days to get on a hearing, and then another 30 days because you're continued because you don't have the information, we're trying to stop that up front. So they will not be assigned a hearing date until the application is deemed complete, either by myself or the deputy inspector. Right now, none of the inspectors in the department have any of the authorities that I carry. Having the deputy inspector, he can then have some of the authorities in my absence. And this is a position that was already created by the county, and the test was given, and we have it within our, it's listed as a position in the town. However, it was not funded as part of the budget, so that's why it's come before you.
And yours, yeah.
This did not go before labor management as far as I'm aware.
No.
Correct.
And we're not voting tonight either.
They're not.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a vote. This is,
You have, even though it's an upgrade, they have to stand with the
Yeah.
agreed because it was in the contract, so.
right.
Right,
So
I think
this
it's
is a change
on-
you're saying is the position's authorized, it's not funded, but then also
Correct.
you want to change the grade of the position to a 19?
It's a 19, correct.
Okay, and that was originally authorized as a 16?
It's a 16 in the contract, which is only 1 grade step up above a regular inspector.
But it's a substantial difference in duties. from-
Correct, and I provided the board with the outline of the process as well as what the deputy inspector will be required to do as part of the position, which is in keeping with the position as published with the county when the test was given.
Right.
I just don't think that in the CSE contract that was ever upgraded, because the last time there was a deputy was when Lenny Post was deputy. So I think that was quite, 4 or 5 years ago. So it was when he retired. It's the same head count.
Right, so
One,
you're moving someone over.
right, so right now we have 4 inspectors that are all assistant inspectors. 1 will move up to deputy.
So really, it's a net difference for this budget season, because your salary that we were paying him in his current position is now wiped out,
Just
and we're
with the
going to put it in a different, it's just the upgrade.
It's
the
an
extra.
upgrade,
Right.
correct.
So that's the only extra we'd be authorizing out of budget, basically.
It's an upgrade with additional
Right,
responsibilities.
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
right,
Just done monetarily, though. The other position, there's no extra person, so it's not a full 110. It's the difference between
Correct.
the 110 and the... Okay. All right, so if everyone's okay with as presented, we're going to then go to the labor management, just bring it up. I'm sure the union probably won't say no to someone getting more money. They may ask for other people to get more money also. So it's we had a timing issue with the 2 weeks again, so we'll talk with them and if it needs to be an amendment before the next meeting, we'll talk about it.
Again, the grade, I was asked to just figure out what the grade should be for
Right.
this evening, and that is based on the salary agreements within the CSE tentative memorandum, because the contracts have not been, the new contract wasn't released. So the salary upgrade that we had spoken about and I requested would put them at the 19. So
Right.
you have, they come back and want
You
20,
just
but,
backed into it, yeah.
correct. So it's in keeping with what is the proposed contract grades.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
No, not on that. I just got a quick question. You had a gentleman here last week, Mr. Wiley, regarding that house on Orangeburg Road. I noticed that there was the fire inspector and code enforcement officer. What was, do we have any upgrade on that?
Well, we were moving
Update.
forward. Yeah, it's fine. Mr. Wiley kind of really stepped a bit out of line last meeting.
Okay.
We were in contact with him. I did provide information that the applicant, the homeowner had put in an application to remedy the situation. We have been told that the husband and wife that currently own the property inherited it from her parents. That work was done prior. However, they're moving forward. They had submitted an application. They had to get sprinkler engineering drawings to legalize the attic, and they have an architect getting drawings to legalize the basement. So they are moving towards compliance.
Okay.
However, that answer was not good enough for Mr. Wiley at the last meeting.
No, I just.
And
'cause
it wasn't good enough the next day either,
yeah.
so.
No, because I drove by there yesterday and I noticed that you had both the code enforcement and
Yes.
the fire
Yeah.
enforcement cars at that address, so I.
Right, so prior to the last meeting, I had advised my inspector to please set up another site visit and go through again, and they complied.
Okay.
They're working towards compliance.
Well, that's
And
good to
you're
hear.
saying it was a pre-existing, they bought it, it was like that, and they're remedying what they bought, essentially?
Well,
Or
correct.
they inherited, sorry.
Correct. Sadly, when you buy a property, if there's existing violations that aren't caught, you inherit the issue
Yeah.
and you have to remedy it if it is discovered.
Right.
So they're working towards doing that.
All right,
Great.
thank you, Jane.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else before? Okay, good. Thank you very much. All right. Yes.
The only other thing I would say is that when we go through the potential increases, we typically do it at budget time, so we can look at the entire totality of the
Right.
town, and fit our needs.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, this is a particular situation with upon arrival, discovering frankly, Jane started in November after budget season was over. I started in January after budget season was over, and we've encountered a building department that frankly, there's a flow problem for applicants in which they're getting applications in and 3 or 4 weeks later finding out that there was a problem because it didn't get to the review stage, and it's different people looking at it the whole time. So given that it was already an authorized position and it's a net difference, I think that's why we're looking favorably on it at the time.
Yeah, and part of it, Jeff, is because there was inconsistencies when applications went
Yeah.
in, depending on which inspector you went to. That was one of the reasons we hired Jane, was to straighten out those inconsistencies, and this is one of the ways she came up with doing it.
I don't necessarily disagree with any of that, but we have to look at the whole town, what people are at a grade 19.
Yeah.
Does it make sense across the whole town? Because you set a precedent, and everyone else is even coming up and asking for that next grade up.
And yeah, just for the folks that can't hear, but he basically is saying that if, when you change a salary in the union contract, it could affect other salaries as well. So which is something we're looking at in the interceding time between now and the next town board meeting. But because of the nature of this, we wanted to try to get the concept before the board and workshopped so that we could vote as soon as possible. So what we're going to do the remainder of this week and next week and the start of the week after is go through that process and make sure we're not offending anyone's financial sensibilities in other positions, I think would be a fair description, and go from there. Thank you. All right, so then we have some more proposed resolutions, and then we have a couple of other time-sensitive ones. So we have the Highway Parks to do assistance for the Central Avenue Field Flea Market and Craft Fair 2018 on July 15th. That'll be voted on next time. Then we have an appointment of a groundskeeper. He go through this is a process for this one. He used to be short a groundskeeper. After justifying it, Eric made clear he really needs the fourth. He was originally at 5. Would be down to 3. And as long as we're doing it in-house, we need the 4. Then the club car one, you all saw this circulated. Again, another time sensitive, we have to vote on. But- Yeah, thank you, Rob. Any questions before, or anyone want to move it?
I'll make a motion.
Councilman Valentine with a motion on the club car. Councilman Batari for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
And this just extends and renews our agreement with, for our golf carts, essentially, but we're getting a better deal and getting better equipment out of it, so it's an improvement over it. Then next, we have one that'll be voted on next time, permission to attend Association of Towns Highway School in Ithaca. And then this one is, if I recall correctly, was something we needed to vote on tonight for the tree care, right? For the Green Bush Road tree removal. Jim, you needed that voted on tonight for the timeline of this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the Green Bush Road bicycle bypass project
This is the land, the tree removal and the grading.
and the grading, subgrading, okay.
Chris, just, the board had previously approved this project,
Right.
and we'd already done secra.
This is a subcomponent of a previously.
Right,
approved
and
project,
the
yeah.
highway department had sent this up, and they'd like to get it done before the end of March, right, Jim, on that?
Before the bats start.
We want, yeah.
Right. That's what they say.
That's the reason,
That's
then,
what they say.
We can get the contractor ready next week.
Okay.
I make a motion.
Councilman Valentine for the motion. Is there a second? Councilman Troy, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. And then Demi has a proposed resolution related to the upgrade of a maintenance mechanic. Does anyone have any questions for, we're not voting on this one tonight. Again, this is for next time, but does anyone have any questions for Joe to bring him up, or do you want to?
No, this has been
No.
discussed.
This has been discussed.
It's been discussed
Passed the
in
test.
passing, yeah.
You got certified.
Yeah, it's just kind of bringing him in step with his work. Right?
Yep.
Okay. And then the last one is for Matt Lenahan, change in title but not pay for next time. Okay,
All right.
I think that about covers it. Anyone have any new business items they want to bring up? No. Anyone have anyone they'd like to adjourn the meeting or in a move?
Stay safe in the snow. There's supposed to be a lot of snow.
I'm sorry, go ahead. You got something, Ron?
Yeah, Dennis reminded me, Joe Ryan, who was a former basketball coach at Pearl River High School and also baseball coach, for which I played for him. Longtime Pearl River resident, and you know, they're a great family. The two children went through Pearl River High School, and Coach Tom Doherty sent around a nice email today to everybody informing them. So maybe in memory of Coach Ryan.
Okay, so Dennis, you want to offer that motion to adjourn? Tom, you want to offer it?
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second? All right, Councilman Atari?
Rob,
I can't vote.
Councilman Troy seconds it. All right, all in favor? All right, so moved. Thank you very much. Is that? Oh, we need an executive session to discuss that, right?